Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Tom. And I want to clarify, I'm Canadian, not Irish. So.
Irish Canadian?
There we go. Again, my name is Ian Woods, and I represent the CATS program in the Eastern region, along with my partner in crime, Karen Gentili, who's not here today, but I'm sure that a lot of you have spoken to Karen. You know Karen, and she's an excellent person to work for. See if I can figure this out. Hey, that was easy. Okay, Eastern region. Arguably one of the most densely populated regions in the United States. I'm not going to go through all the states that are enclosed in the region, but we go down jurisdiction as far as the Virginia-North Carolina border, all the way up to Maine, and then as far west as now Ohio and West Virginia. And we run the whole gamut of infrastructure as far as pipelines in our region. We have natural gas, of course. We have hazardous liquids. We have the HVLs, the highly volatile liquids. We have LNG, the whole gamut. So, and historically, some of the oldest infrastructure in the nation. So there's a lot of concerns on that. I do want to discuss today two generators of the public inquiries that we get. It kind of reflects the top stakeholder concerns that Karen mentioned earlier. But there are two within the last year that have really stood out for the calls that both Karen Gentili and I have taken. And right now, I think the count's just a little bit over 280 calls within the last year that have required, well, that haven't required official response from headquarters, and that's just response from us. So I'll hit on the first one. I call those incident-driven concerns or questions from the public. There were two incidents in Pennsylvania that occurred during the last year. And this one happened in June, and this is actually in 2015. I apologize for that error on there. In Unity, Pennsylvania. It was a 24-inch line operating at 1141 PSI, built in 1964. Normal operations were taking place. Nothing abnormal was going on. And the pipeline ruptured. We call this pipeline self-excavation. As you can see, the crater that was formed, there was no ignition on this. We don't know why there wasn't any ignition. It could have been that there was some rain earlier that day, later that evening. But the line, it did rupture. Pretty good media coverage on this, but again, because there was no ignition, no explosion, no fire, happened in a very rural area, no injuries, no fatalities. Media coverage kind of died off after a few days, but the calls started pouring in, concerned residents. This one line was part of three that traverse almost the entire state or Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So it goes through rural areas, but it does hit some highly populated areas. So we did get a lot of calls from local neighborhoods, landowners, township supervisors, asking questions: are the lines safe? Where are the lines? What are the operators doing to prevent things like this, and what are we at PHMSA trying to do to prevent this as well? The second incident occurred on April 29th near Delmont, Pennsylvania, which is just slightly east of Pittsburgh. It's a 30-inch line operating at 1039 PSI, built in 1981. Again, a self-excavation. Almost a quarter of acre was affected by the heat. Unfortunately, there was one injury, not a fatality, but there was one person injured, and there were a few homes that were affected by this. One home totally destroyed. This, because there was an ignition and there was an injury, generated great media interest. Again, this pipeline is part of a system that traverses almost the entire state of Pennsylvania, west to east, and then over into New Jersey. So, what kind of calls do these incidents generate? Here's a sample. The same pipeline goes behind my house. Is it safe? How does the company know that the pipeline is safe? What is PHMSA doing to make sure that the pipeline is safe? What pipelines are in my neighborhood? And how did this happen? Why are pipelines allowed near homes? Who approves the locations for pipelines? And what are the legal offsets for pipelines near residential areas? Most of these questions could be answered by directing people to information that we make available on our public website. We work hand in hand with the operators after incidents to receive information in a timely manner that we can get it out to the public. The operators are actively engaged with their public affairs peoples to inform the public of steps that they're taking. So the answers are out there. And I think most of the time it's just that the public doesn't know the sources for the answers to the questions that they have. And it falls upon us as we kind of call ourselves more of the community liaisons, and I think we're working on a name change from CATS because it's easier to say community liaison than community assistance and technical services program manager. So that we're that key, we're that tentacle from headquarters that the administrator talked about yesterday. We reach out and we're that connection, and without us, generally the public is lost because they don't have the answers that they need. Simple answers, you know, are they safe? Are they going to be safe to have their kids go to school? Things of that nature. So with the last two, who approves location for pipelines, we generally say, well, that's not PHMSA. There's other siting agencies such as FERC and then the representative states themselves and the legal offsets. So that question leads into the second biggest generator of public concerns and inquiries that we have in our region, and that's new construction activity. This is the latest that I was able to get from our region in Trenton, New Jersey, for major natural gas projects in 2016. Some of these have been put on the back burner because of various reasons, demand, economical factors, but this is just a snapshot of what we have going on in the eastern region. And this doesn't include all the fracking and the Marcellus shale development that's going on as well. There's a lot of controversial subjects in our region. We try to deal with those the best that we can with the resources that we have. For natural gas, this is what we have. And then major hazardous liquid projects. Again, some of these are really contentious. They go mostly through rural areas of Pennsylvania, but some go through very heavily, densely populated areas. As close to 800 feet to some schools, community centers, malls, and people have some valid concerns. And again, working with us and us working with the operators, we try to get the best answers we can to ensure that the public is well informed of what's going on. There's that element of transparency that needs to be maintained to gain the public trust on all sides, governmental and operators. That's all I have. And I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity for us to come up here and present what we do on a daily basis.